All right, good evening. We now call to order the August 14th school committee meeting at 5:30 PM. At this time, given the nature of this evening, I would take a motion to take out of order item number 8, the Yonder Pouch presentation, if it pleases the board.
I'm so moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, so a motion by Mrs. Biagioni-Smith, a second by Mr. Russo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so I welcome Mr. Weir and Mrs. Cordero up to the microphone to give us a presentation here. Thank you for joining us in August.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for moving us up on the agenda. We appreciate that. And thank you for support of this pilot for the Yonder Pouches. We started in April. We have a little timeline there. We're here to give you some feedback as to some of the ups and downs, mostly ups from the information that we have. And we want to also acknowledge, and appreciate the cooperation of the students and the families. I know there were some questions and concerns and anxieties about this program, and we hope we answered some of those questions and put some of those concerns to bay. But we're still open for feedback, and we'd like to provide some feedback that we collected for this. So if you look at the timeline of the pilot program, we applied for the received DESE grant and received in summer of 2023. Then we gained feedback and presented the pilot to stakeholders from September to April. And then in April, we launched the pilot, and then we're here tonight to give you some feedback. And we've written a little summary on the left there that this was, in some of the slides here, it says device, but in this case, we mean like a personal device, not a school device. The Wynn Middle School has device-free philosophy. Any device that is not identified as a learning tool to support all students' mental well-being by reducing distractions and fostering focused learning environments. By minimizing phone use during school hours, we aim to maximize academic achievement and create a positive educational experience.
I think the number one focus for us was that this was not a punitive measure. This wasn't supposed to be a reaction or disciplinary response, but it was really about focusing on the well-being of students in response to just the current research that we're getting overwhelmingly from the Surgeon General's report. And from other approaches and feedback we were getting from other schools. So we wanted that to be a message that we kept reiterating to all stakeholders, including our parents, guardians, and students, that we were focused on their academic success and the social emotional well-being.
And reducing the anxiety that they would feel sometimes during the school day connected to what might be going on through social media or fear of missing out of what was going on in social media. So we had on the next slide some voices. These are just some quotes from some surveys we did and some things we overheard. Student worked through a friendship conflict when in the past they would have texted the parent to pick them up from school instead of working through the conflict. That came from a guidance counselor. From a student in response to a teacher asking students, "What have you noticed?" And students said students have not been on their phone in the bathroom like they did before. That was annoying. And clearly having bathrooms with camera capabilities and things phones in the bathroom with camera capabilities, that's also a concern. Pre-Yonder, I would almost once a day have to get students from the bathroom who were out for over 7 minutes because they were on phones. I've not had to do that once with this program. Student, at first I hated the idea because I was going to be mad, but to be honest, it has no effect on me because I have never even used my phone during school hours anyway. And then this morning, a student said, and this is from a teacher, "I don't really like the Yonder pouch, but things are much better with it." Another student replied, "Yeah, me too, with the pouch no one is taking pictures of me all day anymore." When I asked the rest of the class if they thought the pouches were better, in this case, 100% agreed it's better. They also said cyberbullying during school hours has stopped because of the pouches.
So, the reason why we picked these quotes, I had asked our WIN staff and WIN students for feedback. These were themes I was hearing in many of the responses. So it just encapsulates just some of the feedback that we were getting often.
On the next slide, we have some data that shows primarily how many times students were leaving class during the day or how much time they spent in the bathroom. And it's from different classes, specific classes and different teams. So we've just labeled those on the left. But in all cases, the number of students going or missing time in class went down, or how much time they spent out of class went down, in some cases very significant percentages.
And one thing to highlight is we actually never really had a problem with students using their phone during class. That was not an issue. Kids are very respectful and being able to focus in on the teacher. What was happening is that we were finding that there was a pattern of behavior where students were using, there was this kind of common acceptance or understanding that they can check their phones because they could check every single block or a few blocks. And what I was finding is if there's 7 periods in a day and a student leaves 5 minutes every class, maybe even 4 minutes, that's 25 minutes or 35 minutes of instructional time a day. That's 2.5 hours a week. And those are things that really can impact student outcomes. So those were things that we were discussing. And what I was finding, what we asked teachers to do was look at a typical day pre-Yonder and a typical day with the Yonder program, and then provide us that feedback. So those were typical days for those teachers who gave me that data.
And then the first, I'm sorry, did you?
No,
Okay,
go
yeah, in
ahead.
that first box at the top there, we also, students gave their sort of quotes and their comments in one of the surveys. And overall, 30% thought it was positive. 51% said since they didn't use their phone much during the day, they didn't see one way or the other. And 19% said it was negative, they didn't like it. And some of the comments you couldn't quite necessarily put in a neutral or negative category. But now overall, that's how you would typify the comments that they made. From some guidance office comments, there's been no increase. There was some concern that students who are used to using their phones might feel an anxiety of during the school day of not being able to access it. We were concerned that that might have led to increased trips to the guidance office, but there was no evidence of that specific thing. And they noticed in guidance that social conflicts around phone usage is reduced. In the nurse's office, this information is difficult to quantify. My number of visits have slightly increased. I contribute this to students not being able to text home to be picked up. Nurse dismissals have not increased. Most of the issue with the nurse's office was sometimes students wouldn't feel well and they would text to go home, and the parent would come picking them up and say, oh, my child's sick, and I need to pick them up. And so we would check with the nurse, and she hadn't necessarily seen the child. The child had contact. So we want children to kind of go through the proper channels of, if they're not feeling well, the teacher will give them permission to go to the nurse, and then the nurse can kind of assess the student.
And that was what was really helpful for us in getting the feedback from our school counseling staff and from our nurses, is that we would never deny a child from contacting home if they needed to. And that was something that we really wanted to make clear to students. So they would come down if they needed to talk to a parent, maybe they forgot something. The main office could have the ability to unlock, the school nurse, and the school counselor would be able to approve unlocking the Yonder pouch. So with that said, by having them in front of those providers, a lot of times the things that students were reaching out to their parents for, if it was because they were upset with the conflict with a peer, now they are actually with their school counselor, and so she can give her she in this case, because all of our school counselors are female currently, she could give them some support and guide them on strategies and skills to navigate that conflict.
So our goal is, we hopefully we'd like to continue this for this year, collect additional data and get more feedback from students, and sort of get their ideas around it, if there's things they would like to modify or anything like that. So we'd want to get some more feedback, collect additional data on whether or not it's effective. And also continue assessing, is it Yonder that we would continue with? There's a certain life to these pouches, 2 or 3 years. What would we want to do after that? Would we want to continue with this particular program, or is there something different or another way to work with this? And I think Ms. Cordero had sort of explained the rationale already about increasing time on learning and directing students to identified supports in the school and reducing ongoing distractions during the school day, so they're focused on their studies.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Any comments or thoughts from the committee?
I have one. I appreciate the wraparound service here to come back and tell us how it's been going. I actually didn't even think of the self-advocating part when we discussed this originally. It's a really great way. I know we've talked a lot about how kids have trouble communicating now. They're constantly with their face in a phone. And the fact that they now have to self-advocate to get the things that they want. They don't feel good or they forgot something. Just speaking up and learning how to address that, that's a great, something great to point out of what's come out of this. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. That's all I wanted to just highlight one more time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Russo?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for the follow-up here. This is fantastic. And I'll always look at the glass half full with this.
Yep.
So the way I kind of interpret, at least from the grade 8, the survey data that you shared was 81% are neutral or positive, right?
Yep.
So, and I appreciate some of the comments that you share from staff and students. I guess just, out of the 19% negative, I mean,
Yep.
was it just, I just want my cell phone, and that's it? Was there any sort of theme there with that 19%?
I think we'd have to dig a little deeper, and that's kind of feedback we'd want to get for the start of this year. I think some of the comments were just general, I think it's stupid, or I don't like it, or
Right,
it's,
which-
it's a pain.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, and, we can relate to that being an 8th grader.
Yep.
and that kind of thing. But
Yep.
there could be, to your point, there could be more specific reason that's more personal, and there's something that we need to look into. So I think looking into that would make sense.
I think from reading it, there was 2 themes that came out. The one was dismissal time, which we actually absolutely love. So what we did was we dismissed students by team,
Yeah.
as opposed to dismissing all of first dismissal at the same time. And that's something, even without Yonder, we're going to continue to do,
Yeah.
because it really kind of organized the congestion in the hallway, and it made it safer, not having, 300 kids walking down the hallway at the same time. So we actually pretty much enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it didn't lengthen our dismissal time.
Yeah.
We were able to dismiss at the same time and get them out as quickly, even with the staggered, because there's not the clustering.
Yeah, so that was one thing that I think kids' perception was, now that it's 7A first dismissal, they were attributing that with, oh, now I have to wait a little bit longer. So that was one thing that they found negative. Another thing was the idea that they felt like it was unnecessary, that this wasn't a problem for them, and
Yeah.
they didn't think that, it wasn't something that was needed.
That's true, yeah.
So that was, I think, the theme that I got. But they weren't, I guess, the negative comments weren't denying the fact that there was kind of this issue with students kind of using the bathroom or having ongoing conflicts throughout the day because they're able to talk about it. But
Yeah, it's not a problem for me. I don't usually use it, and I don't see why I need to use it.
And then I guess, just as a follow-up then, so with, I know there's been a lot of transitional stuff that has been happening over the course of the summer. It actually started probably last spring before kids got out of school. Obviously, 6th grade students from last year are now coming into the win. I'm imagining, this uproar of the next year's kids, right? Yeah, even though, sure, some of them, 7th and 8th graders of last year were talking to other kids and whatnot, and messages get out, but now they're going to go live through it.
Yep.
And so how has that been communicated with families and those students, I guess?
We would be communicating before the start of school. We haven't really put anything out over the summer. We're kind of waiting to get some feedback here, and because our idea was to start it up right the first day and sort of make it a practice right away. Okay. But what we do prior to the start would be some education about how it's used,
Yeah.
and that we've been using it. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Mrs. Anderson?
Yes, thank you. So I think the most impactful part of this whole presentation was some of the voices of the win, especially when they said, with the pouch, no one's taking pictures of me all day anymore, and that cyberbullying has completely stopped during the day. And that really seems to be the driver of why we're even doing this, is because of all that negative attention that the phones were bringing. So I appreciate that, but how have the comments from the parents been? Because I know when we initially brought this out that there was a lot of feedback from them. So have you heard a lot more feedback, or?
All the feedback that we've gotten since there were some legitimate questions and concerns that parents had up front at the time when we were about to pilot it. And once it was in place and we were using it, all the feedback I've gotten through email has been positive.
Okay.
It's been, thank you for doing this. And I'm not sure if it's because it was done, like we did implement it, and, but there weren't any real specific concerns that came through about how it was progressing or whether students could communicate at all during the day if they needed to. All that stuff seemed to be resolved. So,
And I would suggest maybe having some type of like Q&A session that you did last year with the incoming seventh graders, just because I think that's just a good place for them to get more information and voice concerns. I don't know where you'd fit that in, but that's probably a good thing to have.
I agree. And that's the sort of what we're weighing out. We'd like to start it on the first day, and that Q&A probably wouldn't happen until after that. So it's something for us to
So
consider.
we did have a Q&A document that we took all the questions that parents had given us, and we created a document from that that was really helpful and informative. That was like, how do I contact with my child if I need to get a hold of them, and all of those things. So like kind of educating kids, I mean, not kids, but parents and students about the process of communication during the school day, I think
And we
is
could provide
essential.
that prior to the start of school.
Good. Yeah,
Prior
good
to
idea.
how the process runs, what are the cues.
I think what we were trying to reiterate is that the process, that students weren't allowed to be using their phone during the school day anyways. This is just how they
Right.
store them. But the thing is, they were using it during the school day. And so that was, they weren't supposed to be like communicating back and forth anyways.
Right, right.
So I think, again, I think for next steps, what I would say is here we are going to have an open house at the beginning of the, September, mid-September. We have the Q&A document. We also have the principal's update coming up so that we are giving our incoming seventh graders some information, getting them ready for the win. So that could be some information that we give too. And then again, like I won't stress this enough, is just creating a positive message that we are all we want everyone to be present here, and we want us to be able to use the supports that are within the school. I think sending that message to students at the very beginning, I would do the similar presentation I did with the last group.
Good. Excuse me, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moncada?
So thank you for coming back and updating us on that. I know this was paid for with a grant.
Correct.
Is that money still available? Do we have to apply for a new grant, or does this not be funded by us?
No, my understanding is that we had the $15,000 grant that paid for this initial purchase, and these will last about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
According to them. So we own them.
Yep.
And the question would be, what would we do after this if they start wearing out? Do we replace a few every year to kind
yeah.
of keep it going?
Okay. Yep. Appreciate that.
And I don't think there's any grant you can apply for now to do that again.
Okay.
Or not currently, at
Right,
least.
currently. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. And I don't have any comments, just thank you so much. I appreciate the work and time that you put into, giving us the feedback and getting this out to the community, because, I think parents and families, had a lot of concerns. The one thing I would like to say is I appreciate so much the work that you put in, working with parents and families with the rollout of this, and ensuring that this is truly what, your student council wanted, what, your school council wanted as well. So I look forward to the work that you're going to do now and following up with them as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so now we will move into executive session.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session.
Second.
Okay, so the time is 5:48. We have a motion from Mr. Russo, a second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. Mr. Moncada, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so we would return at 6:48 PM.
Come back right at 6:30 when it's get.
Is that enough time?
6:30.
Yeah.
45 minutes.
Is that enough time, 6:30? Okay, so we'll resume at 6:30 PM. Right, good evening. We reconvene our regular school committee meeting. It's August 14th at 6:30 PM. Please excuse my voice. I've had a little bit of a cold. I know Mrs. Terry Regan also has kind of a squeaky voice tonight, so we'll try to get through the meeting as best we can. If I need to hand off to Mr. Russo, I will, so please be patient with us. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And starting with our announcement, tonight's regular school committee meeting will be televised and recorded. It may be viewed live on Comcast Channel 22 and on Verizon Channel 34 on youtube.com/Tewksbury TV. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session at a public meeting. At this time, I'd ask, is anybody recording tonight's meeting? Okay, seeing nobody. I have a couple of comments I wanted to make. Excuse me. Just tonight, prior to tonight's meeting, we met in open session as a committee with the administrative leadership team for Tewksbury Public Schools. It was a great day. I just want to make a couple of comments about it. Last month, the committee shared the superintendent's evaluation where we referenced the district goals from 23-24. And today we had a comprehensive workshop where we could reflect on the achievements at the school and department levels. We learned about how the goals of 24-25 will align in the district to target priorities and student achievement and to target student achievement. This workshop is a unique opportunity that we have in Tewksbury where we all come together like this. I'd like to thank you, Mrs. Terry O'Regan, for making this opportunity happen for us. I think it's I can't imagine why other towns don't do this. It's pretty spectacular. It speaks to your ongoing commitment and to aligning priorities in the district and for all the members that hold different positions in the district. I think it's pretty important. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you and the leaders that were there with us today for spending the time in preparing and sharing all the highs and lows with us today. It was pretty awesome. Meeting together like we did and discussing this contact together, it helps inform the committee, and I know that for myself, it's helpful as a point of reference throughout the year on how to best support the work that's happening in the district, and be it through the lens of the budget, policy, or in different initiatives. And to keep us on track and accountable to the community, the committee also shared our goals with the leadership team tonight, and Mrs. Johnson will be posting those to the website. So if anybody's interested, please check those out on the website. All right, moving on. We do not have any recognitions tonight, and we do not have our student council report. Mr. Weir was able to give us his report on the Yonder pouches earlier. Is there anybody here to speak in Citizens Forum tonight? Okay, seeing nobody, we will now move on to the approval of minutes.
Sure. So motion to approve the minutes from our July 24, 2024 meeting.
I'll second that.
With one edit. I think with one edit, and that would be
I can't hear.
Did
with
you
one
mention the
edit.
That's not, well, that's that's the executive session minutes, which I will get to.
My apologies.
So this is just for the minutes. This is just the minutes,
So our meeting, these minutes, July 24th, 2024.
just from the meeting.
Yeah, I think those also had an
Thank you.
edit in them.
They had the same edit
Yeah.
as the executive session.
They don't. They say Nancy, this one says Nancy Milligan.
This is the workshop.
This one does.
Yep.
That's,
It's just the executive session minutes.
oh, okay. Oh, so that was our workshop, okay.
Oh, the workshop. Oh. Okay. Yep, there's 3 sets.
That was our workshop minutes,
Yep.
okay. Okay. Motion, a second on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking a moment on that.
All right, so we have 2 more then. The next would be the minutes from, motion to approve the minutes from our July 24, 2024. It was the goals workshop.
Correct. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion from Mr. Moncada, second from Mrs. Anderson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. That passes unanimously. Thank you.
And then this third one, I do have an edit, or I'd like to make an amendment to it. So if I could, I'm going to motion to approve the minutes from our executive session from July 24, 2024, with the change of Nancy Milligan in place of Lori McDermott, under school administrators present.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and those pass unanimously. Okay. All right, sorry for the moment. Okay, and moving on to the submission and payment of bills.
Sure. So I'd move the school department payroll be approved and certified in the amounts and categories as shown for a total amount of $1,481,826.04. This is for 8/1/2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Moncada and a second by Mr. Russo to approve and certify payroll period ending August
First.
1st, 2024, and the total amount of $1,481,826.04. Mr. Moncada, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well for unanimous vote. And for our, thank you very much. That was all for our bills, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Mrs. Terry O'Regan, I assume you're going to pass
Thank you,
off.
Madam Chair. My apologies. Whereas I don't have a voice, our Assistant Superintendent, Ms. Milligan, will be carrying the reports for both of us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The first report, I am speaking on behalf of the superintendent, so it is written in her voice. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a very busy time of year for us. As you know, we just completed 2 full days of retreats with our district leadership team, evaluating and revising our action plans for the district goals. We presented the strategic plan to you, members of the school committee, and you approved the actions outlined for this school year. We look forward to sharing this information with the Tewksbury Public School community at the beginning of the school year. We are also proud of our team as the work they represents the dire and true district improvement and improved student outcomes for all. The next update pertains to the informational item in your consent agenda. As promised, whenever changes are made in our student handbooks, I will bring them to your attention. The pre-K through 4 principals updated their student handbooks regarding the student drop-off and pickup times, and the student tardy and dismissal procedures. In your consent agenda is also a current summary of new staff and current staff assignments and reorganizations. As of now, we are still interviewing and hiring a few more positions before the school year starts. There are 3 teaching positions between the Ryan and the Wynn, and 1 assistant principal position at Tewksbury Memorial High School. It is bittersweet that I announce to you that Michelle Dick will be leaving her Tewksbury Public School family to continue her administrative career on the Cape, where she has relocated with her family. Michelle will be truly missed, as she has done so much to improve teaching and learning here in Tewksbury. I can tell you that Mrs. Milligan and I will be busy next week doing these final interviews once the principals share their recommendations. The central office leadership team and designated principals interviewed our SRO top candidates. We are pleased that these 2 new Tewksbury Police Department officers will be joining our team. Mrs. Milligan and I have a meeting with Chief Columbus on this Friday to update our SRO MOU. We will announce the names of these 2 SROs thereafter. Officer Waffles will be accompanying SRO Riser at the start of the school year at the high school. Special Ed Review Update. Tomorrow kicks off our special education third-party evaluation and review. If you remember, we contacted with Rebus Associates to do this review for us. Tomorrow, the review begins with a full day of interviews with the central office administrators. Once school starts, the team will begin interviewing school principals, staff, parents, and have the opportunity to see our programs in action. I will continue to provide you updates on this process as it continues. With that, we are very busy getting ready for the new school year and are so excited to see all our students and staff again. And that concludes my updates.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just one, and maybe it's something that we can clarify. the start times for pre-K and kindergarten, first grade at the lower elementary schools. Maybe we can just clarify how that will be.
Yeah.
And I know your voice is hurting, so maybe if we,
I can give you a little bit on that. So, can you hear me? Our teachers' start time and stop time are exactly the same. And if you remember in negotiations, we're working really hard to also have our teachers, before students arrive and after students arrive, time the same. The preschool teachers advocated very strongly to keep their time 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after versus the 30 and 10 or 20 and 20. They wanted to preserve that chunk of time in the middle of the two preschool programs. So with that, there's a 5-minute difference. So our opportunity was to shorten the preschool student day by 5 minutes or leave it the same. And the principals preferred to leave it the same. And here's why. Preschool students will still take the same vans as any other student in that school in kindergarten or grade 1. They'll still take the van home with those students. They take longer, however, to get off with car seats and get on. So it will allow them that amount of extra time. They'll still travel with the other students, get off first, and then with the same drop-off point as kindergarten and grade 1 students, whether it's the van or parent drop-off, those students will get dropped off at one spot. And the principals are sharing the traffic pattern. So there is a 5-minute variable at the beginning and end of the day with students, with the teachers being on the exact same day. So this allowed us some consistency within the building as well as with transportation. If you remember, the Dewing and the Heathbrook have their own fleet of each individual buses now, and vans. So there is a little variance. And at the last meeting, I know I said we wanted everything to be consistent. That's the little variable that still exists. After this year, maybe we'll revisit those start and stop times. But again, a lot of this has to do with our ongoing negotiations and agreements, already made.
all right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Are you all set?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Russo?
No questions, thank you.
Just a quick question, hopefully. When do we expect the end of the special ed third-party review?
It's an 8-week review.
Okay.
In total.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a report and a presentation. So I would expect approximately 3 months from now, you will probably be seeing a presentation, and to know what that, the observations, the interviews, the collection of data, the analysis of all our data, what that gleans in our report and what the needs and strengths are. I'm saying 3 months, but I'll keep you updated.
Okay.
As it was part of the update, I will let you know after tomorrow. They will have a better timeline from the, I told you there are 2 retired superintendents that have worked in both special ed and systems, 2 amazing retired superintendents. So we'll get more detail from them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Moncada?
It's
okay.
Maybe Nancy can answer.
Okay, I'll try.
Can you cover the SRO bit again?
Sure.
Is that announced that
So we're-
which schools are changing?
So we are
SRO?
meeting with the chief on Friday. We're going to go over the SRO MOU, and once that's all in place, then we'll be providing that information.
Okay,
of-
so it's still,
Correct.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Got it, thank you.
Officer Reiser, who's the high school SRO. The SROs work for the whole district, but they have their positions. Officer Reiser is remaining on board, and currently Officer Waffles,
Well, yeah.
will be with Officer Reiser to start the school year.
Thank you.
I have nothing to add, other than I guess I'd like to just publicly thank the SROs who have been in service in our schools for as long as they have. I think they're, an excellent addition to the schools, and I think, and I know how hard they've all worked. So, I'd like to thank, the SROs that are moving on to other positions, and, good luck to the candidates who are interviewing right now for, potential new positions. So, thank you. And thank you guys for doing the work. All right, and Mrs. Milligan?
Sure, thank you.
On to your update.
Thank you. I'm going to start with our summer service learning and enrichment programs. In total, we had 448 students included in our enrichment programs, and an additional 120 students in our Alphabest program this summer. And that also does not include our upcoming freshman orientation that will be happening. It is amazing to see the participation in the summer programming. In the consent agenda, you will see the breakdown of each program, starting with our ESY program. Our special education program, extended school year program, prepared for 239 students based on referrals. 190 students attended with 79% participation. Students participated in either a 4 or a 5-week program, depending on the student need. Students range from our youngest preschoolers up to our LEAP program, which is our summer program for our 18 to 22-year-old students. The district provided transportation, both van and bus, for all students in need. Additionally, food services provided free breakfast. This year, we were able to increase our capacity of our students with social emotional needs by adding a new program, Lower Bridge, for the younger age group. We worked collaboratively with 21st Century, which made it possible for many of our students to participate in the program with appropriate support throughout their day. We are grateful for all the collaboration and support from our district administrators, special educators, families, and of course, our students who made it a complete success. Next, we have our summer recovery program. And just to bring to your attention, you do have some pictures in your inside pocket of some of the wonderful things that the students did this summer. The WIN and the Tewksbury Memorial High School students had the opportunity to restore credits lost during the school year by participating in a free 3-week program held from July 8th through July 26th. Using Edgenuity computer software for their individual courses. This free program came as a result of state funding. Students were also able to complete a service learning component. Licensed teachers were in each classroom working with students, helping them with their coursework and monitoring their progress. Students received a pass or fail for their coursework. In order to pass or even receive the credits, students needed to complete the required hours for their courses in person. Students attending for academic recovery had to complete 45 hours per course. Attendance recovery students had to attend based on a sliding scale in relation to their absences during the school year. Students also need to complete all of their coursework for the courses. Students need to have a passing grade of 60 or higher at the end of the course. In addition, breakfast and lunch was offered to these students free of charge each day. In our Title I reading program, we had 35 students participate. This summer, our 2-week Title I reading intervention program for students in grades 2 through 8 achieved great success. Through targeted instruction, engaging activities, and personalized support, we saw significant improvements in reading fluency, comprehension, and overall literacy skills. Our initial review of the data collected indicates notable progress in students' reading abilities, and their enthusiasm for reading soared as students discovered new genres and authors. Each student received a book upon the completion of the program. The collaborative efforts of our dedicated teachers, support staff, and families played a critical role in creating a nurturing and motivating environment for our students. We are immensely proud of our students' achievements and look forward to continuing this momentum into the upcoming school year. Dewing's 21st Century Community Learning Center in the Heathbrook Penguin Pride program had 99 students involved in that summer program. The Heathbrook Penguin Pride and the Dewing 21st Century Community Learning summer programs are blended together to provide enrichment, fitness, and academic opportunities during the summer for the current kindergarten and first grade students who attend the Heathbrook and Dewing schools. Students are immersed in an environment that celebrates them as individuals as they learn to develop the social and emotional skills necessary for health and success in the upcoming school year, as well as participate in service learning opportunities that enrich the lives of others. These two programs rely on a number of federal and state grants to be able to offer this free 6-week program to students who are classified in targeted populations in the school district. STEM and literacy coursework, playful learning, field trips, and other theme-based activities are offered to students who are placed in small groups that rotate throughout 5 enrichment courses each day. Our next program and last program I'll be reporting out on is our English Language Education or English Language Learner Summer Program. The ELE program this summer had 22 students attend at our Tewksbury School District structured programs. We are also proud and thankful of our teachers and support staff who made this experience not only so effective, but also meaningful and fun for the students. Next, I'm going to report out on the induction and mentoring program. We are pleased to have 10 new staff members joining our district so far this summer. As mentioned, we still have 4 positions that we are looking to fill. Next week, we have 2 days with instructional technology coaches, our curriculum coaches, our Tewksbury Police Department, that will be coming to present to our new hires over the 2 days on the 20th and the 21st. We want to thank Karen Hodgkins and Kathy Henry for helping Principal Terry Garish in organizing this program. In your packets, you have, in the consent agenda, the Tewksbury Public School Professional Development Calendar. We are provided an overview of the professional development opportunities grounded in our 5 strategic goals. Starting on our 2 opening professional development days on August 26th and 27th, you have the overview agenda in your packet. We have 2 full days for our staff. This year, in the interest of time, the staff will be attending opening remarks from their buildings, allowing staff to maximize the full 2 days of trainings, meetings, and getting ready for our students on Wednesday. On Monday, the superintendent will live stream our opening remarks. From there, teachers will dive into the updated district curriculum accommodation plan, also known as the DCAP, and homework policy, using meetings in their professional communities to discuss these resources' implementation and consistency. On day 2, there are 2 options for staff members. Many staff will be taking a deeper dive in the district's multi-tiered systems of supports, MTSS, student services teams, SST, the homework policy planning, and DCAP instructional support planning. At the same time, district administrators and our security team members, along with our school adjustment counselors and additional staff, will attend CSTAG training, which is behavioral threat training and protocols, learning proactive skills and strategies to help promote safe environments, creating a culture in which everyone feels safe and also safe to report concerns. Finally, building administrators will meet with their staffs to ensure everyone has everything that they need for Wednesday, August 28th. You will see that the district has created, in the next part of our professional development grid that you have in your packet, you will see that the district has created a multi-part series across the 4 early release days, along with our 2 full professional development days. In these multi-part series are building-based, are building-based, and they're developed by teachers. Topics include such things as empowering educators, responsive teaching and effective management in a positive learning community, using data to build math interventions, and supporting English language learners in the classroom. All sessions are tied to 1 or more of the 5 goals to support MTSS in our system. We are so thankful for the dedication of these educators for providing targeted, purposeful PD for their colleagues. So thank you. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I just have one question. I know that you said that there are still 4 open positions. Do we have mitigation plans for if those aren't filled by the end of the summer?
Yes.
Okay.
3 of them are teaching, and 1's an assistant principal.
Okay.
Of the 3 teachers, we have a couple of thoughts and ideas just in case.
Okay.
But 1's a long-term sub. We feel we're okay. And these 2, I have interviews coming up next week. I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
I mean, this happens when last-minute resignations or changes in position happen, and we deal with this every year.
Okay.
And sometimes they may turn into a 1-year position because when it's this late, you don't always have a full pool of applicants. But we feel, knocking on wood, we feel really good that we're going to get those classrooms filled.
Okay, thank you.
And as of today, speaking to the building principals, everyone had certified teachers within their queue to be able to reach out to.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Moncada?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Susan? Peter Smith?
No questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions either. I love the PD. I'm excited to hear some feedback and hear how that goes. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Madam Chair and Mr. Russo, will you still be attending our district security team?
That's Ms. Biagionis.
You're welcome to attend the CSTAG training if you're available on that. It's 4 hours that second day.
Okay. I will make note.
I mean, I understand if you're not available, but
Yeah.
you get a feel for what the planning's going to look like.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. All right, and Mr. Lib?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a brief update on our maintenance and construction projects that were happening around the district this summer. Largest one being the Wynn HVAC renovation in the classroom wings that will be turned on at the end of the week for testing. Things have gone well there. There's some minor finish work to be done there, but things look to be in place, and system should be up and running the beginning of next week. Plenty of time for school to get underway. The Heathbrook completed a lot of the flooring work related to the flood we had last summer that wasn't able to get completed before school last year or during the school year that just completed. Some work in the C hallway, a couple of classrooms that were impacted with the water there, and in the main office area. Some tile work was completed at the Heathbrook, and work in the 5 greenhouse classrooms that were also flooded and have been vacant. That works is underway there. A lot of demo works started in that area, as well as some exterior work on getting a concrete pad poured. I think they want to get that done before school starts, so that they're not having to deal with any interrupt any student traffic flow in the building there. Also at the Heathbrook, they completed some kitchen work with some new equipment being installed, and a new walk-in freezer there. Also a new walk-in freezer at the Dewing School. Across the district, all of our gym floors were stripped and refinished, so those look shiny new. And also I'd like to thank John Marchand and the custodial and maintenance crew for the work they've completed this summer. Got a ton of work done on top of their normal work, the regular stripping, waxing. They empty out every classroom. Chris here at the high school painted a whole bunch of classrooms while they're empty. All the normal routine, we have to do elevator inspections, fire alarm inspections, boiler inspections, the regular fire department inspections that go on before school starts. There's so much that gets done in the summer, and we don't want to have that work overlooked, and want to make sure we thank those folks, because it's not always fun to be working in a school when it's 95 degrees and you're moving furniture around and working with heavy equipment. So great work by those guys, and they always seem to get it done before school starts, and have the places looking great when teachers come back and staff comes back. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee? Mr. Russo?
No, I think you're going to talk about transportation and new business, so no, I think we're okay.
Okay.
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
Nope, no questions right now.
I don't have any questions. I did ask Mrs. Terry O'Regan earlier if I could stop by and see some of the work at the Heathbrook at some point. Mr. Moncada expressed some interest as well. I don't think he has seen the Heathbrook at all since he came on the committee, so we may reach out to you if you're at the Heathbrook, we'd like to.
Absolutely. Yep.
That'll be great, thank you. So for the consent agenda, any comments or questions, anything that we want clarified before we entertain a motion on that? Okay.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented in our packet
I'll
tonight.
second that.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, a second by Mr. Russo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. And for our school committee member reports, starting with the CPAC, that's Mrs. Biagioni Smith and Mrs. Anderson.
So the CPAC has, sorry, I thought you were saying something. We haven't met as a, for a business meeting over the summer, so we'll have more after our September meeting.
Okay. And in terms of wellness, anything from Mrs. Anderson or Mr. Moncada?
I'll just say ditto. We have not met since the last meeting, but we will have a meeting in September, so we'll have more then.
Okay. And on policy, Mr. Russo?
Nope, we will also pick up after school year starts, September 23rd.
Okay. I'm seeing we have no policy changes, proposals, or adoption for tonight. For old business, we have an enrollment update. Mrs. Milligan?
Do we have any notes for this?
It's in the electronic version. Here.
Thank you. I don't know which tab it is anymore.
I know.
I've provided you with an expected enrollment for the starting of the school year as of last week. I am encouraged to see a slight uptick in the student enrollment at the Tewksbury Memorial High School. I'll continue to share the enrollment once school starts for more accurate numbers.
Okay. Any comments on enrollment?
What is the, what is the cutoff date for kindergarten enrollment? 'Cause I know that number is really low right now, but that jumps real quick, I thought, right?
Does till the start of school.
Till the start of
Yeah.
school, okay. It just came up as a question somewhere else, and I wasn't sure of that answer, but right up until,
Oh, yes. And even
one.
within that first week, we have new
Yes.
okay, thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anybody over here?
No, thank you.
I couldn't find the
Questions on
tab
enrollment?
quickly.
Thank you very much. And for new business, buses and transportation update. Mr. Flip?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I slid over here to present this is just a sample sort of bus matrix, which is kind of how we start developing the transportation system. We met with our bus company last week, kind of reviewed this with them, and it's kind of a visual look at how we're going to deploy our bus and van resources this year. So we sort of have three separate tiers, if you think about it. Tier 1 with the high school and middle school buses running at sort of the same time. Tier 2, the Center Ryan buses, and Tier 3 a little bit later in the morning and in the afternoon with the Dewing and the Heathbrook schools. The Tier 1 and Tier 2 will use all of our 23 vehicles to get the students where they need to be. At Tier 3, we don't need all the vehicles because there's not as many students. We'll use 15 vehicles, 9 at the Dewing, 6 at the Heathbrook. And the way we're sort of tackling this, we have to have 2 dismissals at the Center Ryan complex. The bus loop only can accommodate 14 or 15 buses at one time. So we know we're going to have a first wave of dismissals, get those buses on the road, and then have a second group come in, load those buses, and send those guys. So we've identified sort of the shortest group of Tier 1 buses. So 5 high school buses and 9 WIN buses that will be our first dismissal buses at the Center Ryan. And then those buses will be on the road the earliest in the afternoon, be able to get to the Heathbrook and the Dewing schools the quickest. And we've also identified the shortest Center Ryan routes to have those buses get to the Dewing and the Heathbrook in the best time. So we should have buses waiting for students at the end of the day at all of our schools. We also did increase the time in between each tier. from where we were last year, so we have a little bit of extra time in that regard as well. And when we met with the bus company, they had a really good idea that we're going to adopt, which was we're going to identify and number the 15 first dismissal buses. We're going to number those 1 through 15. The number we put on the bus is very arbitrary at the beginning of the year. So to help the students know, if I'm on, it used to be kind of random, you know, bus 22 could be on first dismissal, second dismissal. This year it'll be bus 1 through 15 will be the first dismissal buses. Bus 16 through 23 will be the second dismissal buses. So it'll be one less thing for everybody on the campus to kind of think about at the end of the day. Kind of take that one little factor out of people's minds and help sort of with that that potential confusion there at the school. This second matrix here is how we see the vans playing out. Again, with 3 tiers. The first tier at the high school in Wynn, second tier at the Center Ryan, and then the third tier is sort of that combo that the superintendent was speaking of with the doing and the preschool. So we'll be able to combine in the morning, the AM preschool students will be able to ride with the full day doing and Heathbrook students. Then the AM preschool kids will go home on their own dedicated vans. In the afternoon, it'll be just the reverse. So the afternoon preschool students will be driven in on their own vans, and then they'll ride home on shared vans with the K-1 students at each of those schools. And there is a preschool DLC class that has a different time schedule that gets out at 1:45, and those will be dedicated vans as well. So this is kind of how that Tier 3 will shake out. We're not sure how many vans we're going to need at the Center Ryan or the high school, but they're all available now. Whereas before, with the preschool being at 8 o'clock in the past and then dismissing earlier, we were competing with our high school and middle school dismissals, and we don't have that issue anymore. So we have more vans available for those Tier 1 and Tier 2 schools. So I thought, again, these numbers aren't set yet. We still need to meet with the drivers, and they get to bid on their routes and get assigned to the route that they choose. So these numbers aren't actually how the buses will serve the district, but it's just an example of how we will deploy those resources. And we'll be meeting with them the end of this week to kind of go over this one more time with routes in hand and getting feedback from them on how things are working on their end as well. We'll be posting routes the end of this week, so families can start looking for those. The van routes are being worked on this week as well. Families of students that ride vans should start hearing from the bus companies, whether they're in district or out of district. I would say middle of next week, they should start hearing about the pickup times and drop-off times at their respective schools. And that is about all I have for transportation. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. So the first one is on half-days for K to 4. Is there any impact to the bus fleet when the K to 4 dismisses early on those additional 6 half-days that we've added in?
Yes, there is. We're going to have to run the Center Ryan routes twice those days.
Right.
So, and we talked about that with the bus company as well. They're aware of that. They're going to let us know the impact. We expect there'll be a financial impact, not too great, I don't think. Typically, when something like that happens, it's just paying extra wages for the employees.
Okay. And then my second question is more for communication purposes with families, in terms of having the different age groups, grades on buses now, when it comes to siblings and drop-off, and who can be dropped off alone without a parent, with a sibling. Then you mix in that half day. Normally, they'd have a 5th or 6th grade sibling with them, but on these half days, they might not. I don't need an answer right now. It's more to put in this Q&A that might come out, or, when we put our transportation communications out to families, just making sure that that's covered, and it's really clear and it stays consistent across the district, because I think there's some social media type of stuff that will come out and be like, well, my child gets dropped off alone and they're in 2nd grade, and this person says my child doesn't get dropped off alone. So just making sure that that's consistent.
Okay,
It's just a
yeah.
comment.
I know I had a conversation with Mr. Harding about that, and we've thought we were being consistent with our answers, but I'll double back with him and make sure we are.
And maybe not, it's not even the district not being consistent, but maybe drivers having different policies on the side.
Yeah,
Just making sure that we're staying fair to everyone.
gotcha.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Just a comment, I did have a parent that had reached out with a question that, while Mrs. Terry O'Regan was out of town, I did forward that to Mr. Harding. And he had mentioned that he followed up with that parent. So I know there was one particular parent that had that question. Hopefully that will be messaged out to the community. Ms. Russo?
Yeah, just, so, Mr. Libby, refresh my memory, this past school year, did we have 23 buses deployed to the Ryan School? Because they were on their own time.
We had 16.
16. Okay, so this year, for next school year, we're only going to have 15 now in that 3rd tier. Whereas
Correct.
So financial impact wise, we're at the same, minus the extra 6 half days that Ms. Biagioni Smith mentioned. So because those 6 half days, I mean, essentially there's 5 different times now, right? Tier 2, Tier 3, back to Tier 1, back to Tier 2, back to Tier 3.
Yeah, so the Dewing and the Heathbrook routes will be done in the morning, in midday.
Yeah.
And then they won't have to do them again at 3 o'clock or 3:05.
Right. So
You know what I mean? 'Cause those kids will already be home.
Got it.
It's just the center is the split.
The split, yep.
Because the Ryan's still in school.
And I do think it's worth mentioning, just speaking of families and whatnot, because it did come up in our workshop earlier. I think it was Ms. Osborne that mentioned that TTI, Tewksbury Transit, has filled all drivers for our 23 buses and all of our vans. So I think that's great news. And I guess they have some substitutes in the back as well. So I think that's worth mentioning. And I think hopefully we should get off to a cleaner start
Yeah.
this year than we have in years past. So thank you, Mr. Libby.
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson?
Just a question, was there any consideration to spread the Heathbrook and Dewing buses out more, so maybe less kids on the bus for those buses that do not have a third? Home sooner?
Yeah. The routes are, as they were though, they're not very crowded and they're not very long.
Okay.
Even with the 9 and the 6 that we're using, we sort of took what we started with what we used this year, and just said, okay, we're covering the same geography. Let's say maybe if they were shared with the center school last year, they're just covering the same ground, just not with the center kids on it.
Okay.
And see how that looks. That's what we kind of started with, and saw how the numbers came out. tweaked a few routes where we needed to, but they're not particularly long and they're not particularly crowded. So we really didn't feel the need to put any more buses on. And we knew we could get 15 buses like out of the center school complex and headed to those schools from the first dismissal. So we thought that would be a good number to start with too.
Okay, thank you, that was it.
Mr. Moncada?
So thank you for this. I don't doubt you're going to put out at the end of the week or soon the information, and it'll be comprehensive, but there's always questions. So will be people, you're going to want people to reach out to you or to the schools? How are you going to want to take questions on this?
Yeah, when we put out the routes, we always put out how to get in touch with us. It's either email to Dr. Osborne or myself, and we take it from there.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. I have no questions. This looks great. I'm excited to start the year organized, with a plan, fully staffed.
Yeah.
This looks great. So, I'm excited to see how it works out.
Me too.
Yep, Mr. Russo?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Libby, I have one more thing. So just kind of going back, so if I kind of compare the enrollment data that we were just looking at earlier, so between the Ryan and the center, it's roughly 1,300 kids for 23 buses, roughly 56 kids a bus on average. We know that a ton of parents pick up and drop off, right? So
Right.
we know that they're never that high. And then between the other two, between the 15 buses at Dewey and Heathbrook, depending on the school, you're looking at roughly between 28 to 37 kids on average, depending, Heathbrook, 28, doing 36.
Right.
So that center Ryan, that's got 55 kids on it theoretically, on average, maybe more like 50. Is that, we're going to know that first couple weeks, whether that 40-minute window is enough to get those 15 buses to, did you say?
Yeah.
Did you say that you planned those 15 buses those are the first ones that are going to be dismissed from the complex, from the campus first?
Yep.
And then so that they'll have the most time out on the road if they're,
And we chose routes that were shorter and finished near
yeah, that's cool.
the Heathbrook or near the Dewing. We kind of designed it that way so that we have the best chance to get them where they need to be
Excellent.
without rushing.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask one more thing
Yeah, sure, of
with that? So is there like inclement weather time built in? So how close are those buses, like in time?
40.
Like how close what's the the wiggle room there, I guess?
About 40, 45 minutes, right?
40 to 45 minutes for the,
No, the average route is,
You mean between?
between, yes, between.
Between.
in between 40.
Wow, so
There's 40 minutes between each tier.
a good chunk.
This was,
Yeah.
that was a big impetus as far as clustering.
All right. And
Yep.
then just one more thing. So where are these and bus tiers is new to me, so this, I'm looking at this. So where there's these extra tier 3 spots, are those potentially buses that would be able to be like backup if we needed them?
They could be,
Could be,
right.
could be. It's just potential to use those
They'll be used for late bus
late bus.
help at the high school, middle school, Ryan School, which we haven't been able to fill in the past because every bus was busy in that tier 3 slot in the past.
That's really great.
Much better.
Help us with athletics. Sometimes we can't fill our athletic routes. So
Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Are the drivers out testing the routes by any chance?
not yet.
They have to bid. They're going to bid on their routes.
Bid on their routes?
And then they'll,
Yeah, they bid on the routes next Wednesday. So that's when we'll know who's the driver and what number and that sort of thing.
Okay, great.
Fun.
Thank you. All right, next is 2425, back-to-school parent guardian information.
Madam Chair, as requested from our July meeting, we created a single memo for parent and caregivers regarding some key back-to-school details. We have sent this memo out a few times already, and will continue to communicate these details as they are updated. In fact, tonight, the Aspen student and staff data will roll over. That puts us on schedule for principals to verify all the new data tomorrow and publish the grades 1 through 12 class assignments and schedules before end of day on Friday. We are very hopeful that the rollover goes smoothly to stay on this schedule.
And then finally, I think grades,
Oh, yes, and grades pre-K and K letters were already mailed home earlier this week. Oh, great. Okay. Any questions or comments on the form?
I just have one comment. I love this document. I've seen it pinned on all of the like pack pages. I think it's really great.
and we updated it with the Chromebook piece as well, so there's a little new information.
Yeah, I love this document. I think this is really streamlined. I love that all the links are embedded. I think some people put some screenshots up, so the links were broken, but if you use the original, if you share it or pin it to wherever you're putting it, it's really great.
Well, we appreciated the suggestion too. I hope it's helpful.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Teresa?
Nope.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
I feel the same way. I think it's recognizable. It's something that you could replicate and continue to use. People will recognize it and know what it's for. Yeah, you could update it in different ways. I like it a lot, too. Thank you. Susan. New school committee matters of interest. Anything, anybody, Mr. Moncada, anything to add?
Ready for school start. That's what I'm interested in, ready for that to start.
Mrs. Anderson?
Just, we've been working hard on negotiations for not just the teachers and, but all the other different units. So those negotiations were ongoing throughout the summer, and I think that we've made a lot of good progress there. So I'm excited to see over the next couple of weeks where we can get to with those.
Great.
Yep.
Mr. Rizzo?
Yeah, thank you for raising that, Ms. Anderson. I guess from my point, I'll just say summer reading is almost coming to an end. No one else talked about it tonight, so I'm going to bring it up.
I have to,
I know we all have kids that, refuse to do it, don't want to do it. Hopefully, they're getting it done over the next 2 weeks, though.
yeah, thank you.
Ms. Beano Smith?
I'll comment on summer reading because I will continue to bring up this one book topic, and I'd love to see more feedback this year from the students. Just what they think of, what the students think of it. I know that Ms. McDermott talked about it last year. It was last year the first year that we did the one book, or was it the year prior?
No, I think it's been a couple, but at different
Couple.
grade levels have added that.
Added it.
Yeah.
So I would like to continue to hear some feedback on student thoughts on it. I know the teachers like to have the come back to school and everybody's talking about the same book, and it gives them all something to talk about. But I'd like to hear some student perspective, especially as the kids start to get older and they find genres that they like. And I would just be curious to hear more student. And then one other thing, Madam Chair, I'd be interested to hear some about what our PACs might be having planned. I know we've gotten some requests for fundraisers and requests for events that are taking place. I'm not sure if there's a way to maybe have a more streamlined and consistent approach to looking at some of that information.
Yeah, I mean, this is Terry Regan. We've chatted before a little bit about, actually quite a bit about streamlining just in general some things. Maybe we could, through Mrs. Johnson, there's a nice template that we've gotten from some PACs in the past where they present to us, what they're planning for the year, whether, they break it down with fundraising, community activities, things like that. If we could take maybe one that we've liked from the past and maybe share that out to the PACs and see if that's something that they would be willing to submit to us, like maybe either twice a year, at the beginning of the school year and then halfway through, or for the full year, that would be nice. And then also, as a reminder, to kind of keep tally through the year, how they're spending their money, so that at the end of the year, they can kind of give some accountability to say, geez, you know, like, it's nice to get the credit for, you know, how they're allocating their resources and funds, so that, you know, they can get the credit that they're, you know, purchasing things for the district, or, you know, supporting teachers, supporting students and things like that. So, and we'd like to recognize that, so.
Absolutely.
Maybe if they could start doing it. So I mean, I'm happy to have maybe one of us, or I will, go to a townwide PAC meeting, or just through you, Mrs. Terry Regan, whatever makes sense there. But yeah, that's a good thing to bring up.
And that's all for me.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay. I just had a few things to mention, and I should have mentioned it, Mrs. Milligan, when you were talking about some of the credit recovery and things like that. I just want to thank you for having staff reach out to us. Two things that I attended this summer that I just really enjoyed. One was the credit recovery, to sit with the students and really see some of the work that they were working on. This wasn't the Breakfast Club. This was, you know, kids that were really out there using hand tools, hands-on experience type stuff, which I love. And just doing things outside in nature, which was complementing some of their academic work too. So that was a really a nice thing to see. But then also going to the 21st century and kind of not really knowing what to expect. I'd been last year a little bit, but in showing up, they had put together this full map. These are kindergarten kids and first grade kids. And the target audience was if you were a new resident to Tewksbury. And so here's this map, and it had all these different, you know, places on the map that where would you want to visit. And they're little kids, and it was kind of cool. But then they also put together a website where, you know, you could go onto this website and see. It was all the things on the map that translated to the website. And there were 2 high school kids that were helping to facilitate this activity. And it turned out these 2 high school kids were taking this whole project that the little kids were working on, but they were using this for their DECA project. And so then they ended up kind of presenting how they were utilizing this and how they were going to translate it to the DECA. So I happened to run into Mr. Sullivan and chatted with him a little bit about it, but to see how that came full circle, as we talk about approving a DECA thing, or the 21st century, or learning about this grant, but to walk into that classroom in the middle of the summer and see how all that stuff kind of comes together, that's what this is about. This is why we do this, and to actually visualize and see these things is so meaningful. So when these opportunities come up, please reach out to us. I think it was 20 minutes out of my day, and it was just like, it made my week. So it was a lot. So thank you very much. I just want to kind of say again to Mrs. Bastieri and everything she does to find the grants. She does a really nice job. And I don't think we thank her enough. I know you do, Mrs. Terry Regan, privately, but yeah, she does a lot. And then I also want to make mention that the Select Board finalized the Tewksbury School Facility Study Committee.
Yes.
And we will be meeting hopefully soon to get some of that work done and started. Rich and I will be representing the school committee, at least to get the committee started. And so I just want to kind of mention that to the community, that hopefully is going to be starting soon, and to look for that. And then also, we have our next negotiations meeting with the teachers, the TTA, and aides on the 5th of September, right? Am I right?
That's right,
Okay.
September.
So just wanted to mention that as well. Future school committee meeting dates, September 18th, October 1st is special town meeting, October 16th, November 13th, and December 11th. Future subcommittee advisories, we have the CPAC business meeting is on September 19th, Wellness Advisory Committee is October 24th, and Policy Subcommittee, we said, was September 23rd. Future agenda items, anybody have anything they want to add for maybe September? Okay, and that's it for tonight.
Make a motion to, second.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. B. Jane Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's for 7:30 PM.